Settle in. Today I've got 4 of the most disturbing Reddit stories I could find. Like, subscribe, and let's dive in. I, 33, female, found a sealed court record with my name on it that my parents swear doesn't exist. Now I think my brother hurt someone and they made me forget. Posted 3 days ago in r/offmychest. I need to get this out somewhere because I feel like I am losing my mind. I am a 33-year-old nurse. I live in a rooftop flat with my roommate Rachel, and honestly, my life has been pretty normal up until about 2 weeks ago. I was renewing my nursing license, something I have done before, totally routine. Part of the process is a background check. I have never had so much as a parking ticket, so I did not think twice about it. Then I got a flag. A sealed juvenile court record from my home county listing me as a protected minor witness in an aggravated assault case. I have zero memory of this. None. I called my parents immediately, and my mom picked up. Before I even finished explaining, she cut me off. "Clerical error," she said. "Just a mix-up with the county system. Do not worry about it. These things happen." My dad got on the line and said the same thing almost word for word. "Do not worry about it. Just a glitch." It was not a glitch. The case number was real. I checked. I pulled the partially redacted filing through the county portal, and there it was, an actual case with actual dates from when I was 10 years old. Most of the details were blacked out, but I could read enough. On the respondent line were 2 initials, B.M., my older brother Brandon's initials. Brandon, who would have been about 15 at the time. I sat there staring at my laptop in my kitchen at 2 in the morning, trying to make it not be what it looked like. Then I found the last page. There was a victim impact addendum attached to the filing, signed by 2 people, the parents of a girl named Natalie. Natalie was my best friend when I was little. She lived 3 houses down. We did everything together until I was 10, and her family moved away overnight. I was told they relocated for her dad's job. That was the story my whole life. Nobody corrected it. Not once. Not my parents, not Brandon, not anyone. Natalie's family did not move for a job. Something happened to Natalie. My brother was the respondent, and apparently I was there. I was a witness to something I cannot remember witnessing, and every single person in my family watched me grow up believing a lie. She did not sleep that night. I have reread that filing maybe 40 times now. Every night after Rachel goes to bed, I sit at the kitchen table with my laptop open, and I go through it again like something new is going to appear in the redacted lines. It never does. I started trying to remember on my own. Natalie, the neighborhood, what it was like before she left, and some of it came back. Not much, but pieces. I remember a creek behind the houses at the end of our street. I remember playing there with Natalie in the summer, catching crawdads, getting our shoes muddy. And I remember Brandon being there sometimes. He was older, 15 or so, and I remember thinking it was weird that he wanted to hang around 2 10-year-olds. After that, it is just a wall. Like someone drew a line through my memory, and everything on the other side is blank. I called my mother again. This time I did not ease into it. I told her I had the filing, I had the case number, and I needed her to tell me what happened. She got angry fast. She told me to leave it alone. She said Brandon was a kid and kids do stupid things and the courts handled it and it was over. I said, "Mom, aggravated assault is not stupid kid stuff." She hung up on me. The wall was not in her memory. Someone built it there. Here's the thing about being a nurse. You know how medical record systems work. You know what gets stored and where and for how long. I remembered being in therapy from age 10 to about 12. My parents told me it was for general anxiety after Natalie's family moved away. Anxiety about losing my best friend. That was the reason I was given, and I never questioned it, because I was a child, and why would I? So I filed a formal records request for my own childhood therapy files. The practice still exists. The records are archived. It will take a few weeks, but they are legally mine. I also tried to find Natalie. I searched every platform I could think of, but the name is common, and I have nothing to go on. No current city, no married name, nothing. We have been completely estranged since I was 10. 23 years. I keep walking around my flat feeling like the floor is not solid. Like there is something underneath every room of my childhood that I was never supposed to see. And now I have seen the edge of it, and I cannot look away. She told Rachel everything. I finally showed Rachel the filing. We sat on the floor of our living room, and I walked her through all of it. The background check flag, the case number, Brandon's initials, Natalie's parents on the victim impact statement. Rachel just kept saying, "Oh my God." She asked me if I remembered anything, and I told her about the creek, about Brandon hanging around, about the wall in my memory where everything after that goes dark. Then she helped me look at the filing again with fresh eyes, and we caught details I had glossed over. The incident location is described as a wooded area adjacent to a residential creek. That is our creek. The victim is listed as a minor female, approximately 10 years of age at the time. That is Natalie's age. That is my age. The case was resolved through a sealed juvenile adjudication. Brandon would have been about 15. I called him. I do not know what I expected, but I picked up my phone and called my brother. He answered on the third ring, and his voice went flat the second I brought it up. He told me I was being dramatic. He said I needed to stop digging into things that were settled decades ago. Settled. Not "it did not happen." Not "you have it wrong." Settled. Like it was a debt that got paid off. He coaches children now. Brandon is married. He lives 20 minutes from our parents. He coaches youth soccer on weekends, and people in the community love him. He is the guy who brings extra water bottles and gives the kids pep talks after losses. That is who he is now. And I sat there on my living room floor next to Rachel, holding my phone after he hung up on me, and I thought about a 10-year-old girl at a creek, and a 15-year-old boy, and a court case that somebody made disappear. I thought about how everyone in my family looked me in the eye for 23 years and never said a word. I am still waiting on my therapy records. They told me a few more weeks. I do not know what is in those files, but I know what I was told back then, that the therapy was for anxiety about Natalie moving away. And now I know Natalie did not move away. Not the way they said. Just an auntie. A protected minor witness designation means someone with authority believed you were at risk of retaliation or coercion. That does not get assigned casually. Your parents knew exactly what they were shielding. Just an auntie. A protected minor witness designation means someone with authority believed you were at risk of retaliation or coercion. That does not get assigned casually. Your parents knew exactly what they were shielding. That is what gutted me. I kept telling myself, maybe they panicked. Maybe they were just scared parents making a bad call in the moment. But a protected witness designation means lawyers were involved. Paperwork was filed. Decisions were made in rooms I was never in about my own memory, my own testimony. They did not panic. They planned. The therapy records arrived. And then she posted an update. I finally talked to Natalie, and my family is done. The files came in a plain manila envelope. Rachel sat next to me on the couch while I opened it. The notes were clinical, dry, the kind of language therapists use when they are documenting for liability. But what they documented destroyed me. My parents had given the therapist specific instructions. If I began to surface any memories related to what the notes called the incident at the creek, the therapist was to redirect those memories toward generalized anxiety about my friend moving away. It was written down. It was a directive. And the therapist followed it. For 2 years, every time my 10-year-old brain tried to remember what happened at that creek, a professional adult whose job was to help me steered me away from it on purpose. But the worst part was not that. The notes described the incident itself based on what my parents disclosed to the therapist. I was not a passive witness. I tried to stop Brandon. I got between them, and he shoved me into the water. I hit the rocks at the edge of the creek and cut my left knee open. I have a scar on my left knee. I've had it my entire life. I was told I fell off my bike when I was little. That is what my parents said every single time I asked. Every single time. I looked down at it while I was reading, and I felt everything I have ever known about my own life shift under me, like the ground was not real. Quiet Creek memory. You were 10 and you still tried to stop him. That tells me everything about who you are versus who they chose to protect. No place like home. Not. Your brother coaches children's soccer. I need you to understand that sentence the way a stranger reads it after everything you just described. Fog machine. This is the part that made me physically sick. Everyone is focused on the parents, and yeah, they are monstrous, but Brandon is around other people's kids right now. Every day this stays buried is a choice. She found Natalie. A mutual acquaintance from our old neighborhood put us in touch. I will not say how because I want to protect her privacy. But Natalie and I spoke on the phone for almost 2 hours. She confirmed everything. All of it. She told me that Brandon cornered her at the creek that day, and that I was there, and that I tried to pull him off her and he threw me into the water. She said after the court case her parents moved the family because they could not stand living 3 houses down from the people who protected the boy who hurt their daughter. She told me something that broke me open. She said she spent years believing that nobody in my family cared about what happened to her, that no witness ever came forward, that I just stood there and watched, or that I took his side. She did not know I tried to help her. She did not know my parents erased it. I gave a formal statement to the district attorney's office the next day. Brandon is now under investigation. He is still coaching youth soccer as of right now. My parents called me the morning after they found out about the statement. My mother called me a traitor. My father said I was destroying the family. I told them the family was destroyed 23 years ago at a creek, and they just papered over it. My father showed up at my flat 2 days later without warning. He stood in the hallway and told me I could still take it back. Rachel helped me change the locks that afternoon. I have not heard from any of them since. My nursing license renewal went through. The sealed record did not affect it once I provided documentation. I kept my license, I kept my statement on file, and I lost every person I share a last name with. I think about the scar on my left knee. I have touched it 1,000 times without knowing what it meant. It is not from a bike fall. It is from the rocks at the bottom of a creek where I tried to protect my best friend when I was 10 years old. My family took that from me. They took the memory of the one brave thing I did as a child and replaced it with a story about falling off a bicycle. I am not going to let them erase it again. Not mine, and not Natalie's. RN Solidarity. Fellow nurse here. I cannot imagine going through a licensure renewal and having this detonate in your lap. Please talk to your compliance officer before anything else. You want this documented on your terms. On to the next one. I, 28 female, found out why my work login was being accessed at 3 a.m. and now I feel physically sick. Posted to r/offmychest by Paige Throwsaway 6 days ago. I need to get this out somewhere because I cannot stop shaking. My name is Paige. I am 28 and I work as a staff photographer at a regional medical center in a small town. I live with my partner, Marcus. I love my job, genuinely love it. I photograph patient spotlights, donor events, staff portraits, features for the pediatric wing. The kids are my favorite part. I get to walk into a room where a 5-year-old is terrified and somehow make them laugh long enough to forget where they are for a second. Parents have cried thanking me for giving them a photo of their child smiling during chemo. I have always felt proud of what I do. About 3 weeks ago, our IT security lead, Spencer, pulled me aside before a morning shoot. He told me my network credentials had been authenticating from an IP address traced to Romania every night at roughly 3 a.m. He was calm about it, said it was likely a credential stuffing attack from a database breach somewhere. I felt alarmed, but not panicked. These things happen, right? Spencer walked me through resetting my password, setting up 2-factor authentication, the whole process. Within 2 days, the remote logins stopped completely. I felt relieved. I thanked Spencer and moved on. She almost left it there, but I could not let it go. Call it instinct, call it anxiety, I just wanted to see for myself that nothing was touched. So I started going through my photo archive on the network drive, folder by folder. Everything looked normal at first: the donor gala sets, the staff headshots, the event coverage. Then I opened the children's wing directories. Dozens of files had their EXIF metadata stripped completely clean. GPS coordinates, timestamps, patient room identifiers, all of it, gone. Just bare image files with no embedded data at all. I checked the modification dates. They did not match my edits. They did not match anything I had done. The oldest modifications went back over 7 months, long before the Romanian IP ever showed up in the logs. Someone with access to the local network had been going through these files and sanitizing them one by one, long before my credentials were supposedly compromised. And they only touched the children's wing photos, every single one. I closed my laptop and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes trying not to throw up. I do not know what this means yet, but I feel physically sick and I needed to tell someone. The logins had stopped, but Paige could not stop looking. I have been trying to write this for 2 days, and I keep deleting it because seeing it typed out makes it more real. After I found the stripped metadata on the children's wing photos, I went back through every single directory on my network drive. The donor gala folders, untouched. Staff headshots, untouched. Event coverage from the last 18 months, completely normal. Every file exactly as I left it. Only the pediatric wing. Every shoot I have ever done in that wing had been opened and modified by someone who was not me. I kept thinking about the faces in those photos. Kids in hospital gowns holding stuffed animals. A little girl who lost her hair to chemo but wanted me to photograph her new headband collection. A boy, maybe 4, who would only smile if I let him hold my camera first. I made those images with so much care. I framed every shot to make those children look brave and happy during the worst days of their lives. And now, I cannot open those folders without feeling like I helped someone do something terrible. I told Marcus that night. I sat on our couch and just started talking and could not stop. He listened, he held my hand, and when I finished, he said Spencer clearly handled it since the login stopped and maybe I was spiraling. He was not dismissive. He was worried about me, but he did not understand why I could not just let it go. She could not let it go because the timestamps told a different story. I started keeping a spreadsheet. Every altered file, its original creation date, its modification date, and the day of the week that modification fell on. The pattern was immediate. Every single change happened on a weekday, every single one during business hours, between 9 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. Not 3 a.m. from Romania, broad daylight from inside the hospital network. Whoever stripped that metadata was doing it from a workstation in the building while the rest of us walked the halls. And the person who told me about the breach, the person who helped me reset my credentials, the person who made the Romanian logins disappear, that was Spencer. He is the IT security lead. He controls the logs, the access permissions, the server room. If I bring this to him, I am either bringing it to the person who can help or the person who did it. I do not know which, and I am terrified of guessing wrong. The woman I replaced, Jessica, left about 18 months before I was hired. She worked in communications and had the same server access I have now. I have no idea why she left. Nobody talks about her. I keep wondering if she ever sat in this exact same spot, staring at the same files, feeling this same dread. The files had been moved somewhere Paige was never meant to look. I spent the next 2 days digging through every log file I could access with my own permissions. I am not an IT person, but I know how our file server is organized because I use it every day. I found something that made my stomach drop. The stripped children's wing photos had been copied, not moved, copied, to a directory I have no access to. It was labeled with a string of numbers and the word backups. It looked like a routine server maintenance folder, the kind nobody would ever click on twice. I could see the directory name in the transfer logs, but when I tried to open it, I got an access denied error. Only someone with admin level credentials could get in there. I tried going to my supervisor. I did not mention Spencer by name. I just said I had noticed some unusual file activity on the photo server and asked whether we had a process for reporting concerns about network security beyond the IT department. She barely looked up. She told me Spencer had already resolved the credential issue, that the foreign logins were dealt with, and that I should focus on my upcoming shoot schedule. She said it kindly, but it felt like a door closing. Marcus told me he believed me, but that I needed to be careful. He said if I accused the head of IT security without proof, I would be the one who looked unstable. He was right, and I hated that he was right. Then an email arrived from someone who was not supposed to exist anymore. 4 days after my supervisor shut me down, I got an email from an address I did not recognize. No name in the sender field, just a random string of characters. The subject line read, "Do not reply from your work account." The message was 3 sentences. It said, "My name is Jessica. I used to work your job. I heard about your credential incident through a mutual colleague, and we need to talk as soon as possible. Do not go to Spencer. Do not go to administration. Call me." There was a phone number. I sat at my desk and read it 4 times. Jessica, the woman I replaced, the woman nobody at the medical center talks about, whose departure I was told was just a standard resignation. She had found me. She already knew about the logins, and she already knew not to trust Spencer. I have not called her yet. I am writing this from my car in the hospital parking lot because I do not want to be inside that building right now. I am going to call her tonight after Marcus goes to sleep. I am terrified of what she is going to tell me. Quietly upset RN. I work in healthcare IT. The fact that he used the credential reset process itself as cover is genuinely one of the most calculated things I have ever read on here. That is not opportunistic. That is rehearsed. Throw it all out now. I am a pediatric nurse, and I cannot describe what reading this felt like. We trust the people around those kids. We have to. And this is what that trust looks like when it breaks. Nope, nope, nope. The Romania IP was a prop. He created the crisis so he could be the one to fix it. That is straight out of an arsonist firefighter playbook. That is exactly what the federal agent said to me almost word for word. She called it a manufactured incident loop. Spencer would trigger the alert, volunteer to remediate, and use the remediation window to rotate his own access tokens while everyone was focused on the fake external threat. I sat across from him while he walked me through my new password. He was helpful. He was calm. I thanked him. 2 days later, Paige came back with an update. They found 6 years of files on his workstation. I called Jessica. I waited until Marcus fell asleep and sat in our bathroom with the door locked and the fan running. She picked up on the first ring like she had been holding the phone. The first thing she said was, "It happened to you too." Not a question. She told me everything. 3 years ago, Spencer pulled her aside with the exact same story. Foreign IP, 3AN logins, credential stuffing. He helped her reset everything. The logins stopped, and she thought it was over. But Jessica was more technical than me. She found the stripped metadata on her children's wing photos within a week. When she brought it to the hospital director, Spencer was ready. He produced server logs showing that Jessica herself had accessed those files from her home IP address on multiple occasions. Logs he had fabricated. Jessica was terminated for violating patient data privacy. She lost her reference, her reputation in a small town, everything. She told me the Romania IP was never real. Spencer routes his own internal access through a chain of proxy servers to make it look like a foreign intrusion. Then he reports it, volunteers to fix it, and uses the chaos of the credential reset to rotate his own access and bury the trail. He has done this with every single communications staffer who had access to the photo server. I am the 4th. Jessica had already contacted a federal cybercrime unit on her own months ago. She reached out to me because my incident gave them a second active witness. Spencer's office was 5 doors down from hers. I did not go to the hospital. I did not go to my supervisor. I did not go to the director. I called the number Jessica gave me the next morning from the parking lot of a gas station 2 towns over. The federal agent I spoke with already had a case file open. She asked me to continue working normally and not to alter my behavior around Spencer in any way. I have been doing that for 4 days now. I pass him in the hallway. He nods at me. He asked me on Tuesday how my new password was working out, and I smiled and said, "Great." I sat in my car after that conversation and dry heaved for 5 minutes. This man has been sitting 5 doors down from me, watching me walk to the pediatric wing with my camera bag every week, knowing exactly what he was going to do with the photos I brought back. I cannot describe what it feels like to realize you have been a supply line. Deleted my main. The part about Jessica getting fired for the exact thing Spencer was doing made my stomach drop. He literally weaponized the evidence trail against her. Calmly furious dad. 6 years, 4 photographers, and no one at that hospital asked why their communication staff kept having credential problems? That is institutional rot. Deleted my main. Because the IT security lead was the one writing the incident reports, he controlled what the director saw. Every single time it looked like a routine external breach, patched and resolved. The system did not fail to catch him. The system was him. The forensic report came back on a Wednesday. Federal agents mirrored the photo server and Spencer's workstation within 48 hours of my call. I was told to keep going to work like nothing had changed. So I did. I shot a donor luncheon on Monday. I edited staff portraits on Tuesday. I walked past Spencer's office both days and he was just sitting there, drinking coffee, answering help desk tickets. Normal. Completely normal. Then on Wednesday, my contact at the federal unit called and asked me to come in. She told me what they found. Spencer was not just stripping metadata. He had written a scheduled task that ran every night. It would take the cleaned images, embed them inside encrypted containers, and disguise those containers as routine server backup log files. The backup directory I could not access was not backups at all. It was storage. The containers held children's wing photos from at least 4 previous staff photographers spanning 6 years. 4 of us. He had cycled through every person who held my position, used the same fake breach playbook each time, and harvested whatever we produced. The Romania IP, the credential reset, the helpful, calm demeanor. It was a script. I was never hacked. I was never the victim of a data breach. I was a supply line, and so was every photographer before me. Jessica's termination is being formally reviewed. The federal agent told me the hospital director had no idea. Spencer's incident reports made every departure look routine and every breach look external. He controlled the entire narrative because he controlled the infrastructure. I keep thinking about the boy who would only smile if I let him hold my camera. I keep thinking about the girl with the headband collection. I composed those shots with everything I had. I wanted those kids to have one good image from the worst chapter of their lives. And every single one of those files was taken by the man the hospital trusted to keep them safe. Marcus has been incredible through all of this. He holds me at night when I wake up and just stare at the ceiling. But he cannot fix the thing that is broken. I do not know if I can pick up a camera again. Not because I have lost the skill, but because I do not know how to frame a child's face in a viewfinder without seeing what someone else saw when they looked at my work. I am going to take a leave of absence. Jessica and I talk almost every day now. She deserved so much better than what that place did to her. We both did. Sunflower Forensics. Please tell me the federal investigation is still active. 6 years and multiple photographers means there are victims who have no idea their images were taken. On to the next one. The only ATM in my town keeps rejecting my card and printing a receipt with someone else's name on it. Now things in my cottage are moving on their own. 3 weeks of error receipts. She kept every one. My name is Amber. I am 30 years old and I work as a data analyst. About 6 months ago, my roommate Laura and I moved into a cottage at the edge of a town so small it does not even have a traffic light. The nearest real bank branch is about 40 minutes out. The only ATM sits bolted to the wall outside the post office, and it serves maybe 200 people on a good day. 3 weeks ago, I stopped at that ATM on my way home from work. I slid my card in, typed my PIN, and the screen flashed declined. The machine spat out a receipt. At the top, where my name should have been, it read Nolan. I figured it was a software error. The machine is old, the town is old, everything out here runs on duct tape and habit. A few days later, I tried again. Same result. Declined, receipt, Nolan. Third time, same thing. Nolan is the name of our landlord. He owned the cottage before we moved in, supposedly relocated 2 states away, and now manages the lease remotely. Laura handled all the paperwork with him. I have never met the man, never spoken to him on the phone. All I knew was his name, printed on a receipt that should have been mine. The account was wide open. Yesterday, I finally logged into my bank account from my work laptop during lunch. I expected maybe a hold or a flagged transaction, something to explain the rejections. What I found was a string of cash withdrawals I never made. 5 of them over the past 2 weeks, all from that same ATM, all time-stamped between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Hours when I was sitting at my desk 40 minutes away. Someone had been pulling cash from my account while I was at work. My hands went cold. I opened my wallet and pulled out my debit card. Same bank, same green backing, same chip placement. But when I tilted it under my desk lamp, the embossed name along the bottom did not say Amber. It said Nolan. The card I had been carrying for weeks, the card I had been sliding into that ATM over and over, was not mine. Someone had swapped it, quietly, carefully, without me noticing. Someone had taken my card out of my wallet and replaced it with one that belonged to our absentee landlord. And whoever had my real card knew my PIN. I sat there under the fluorescent lights of my office, holding a stranger's card between my fingers, and my hands would not stop shaking. Someone had been watching her type her PIN. I called the bank first thing the next morning, sat in my car in the office parking lot with the engine off and explained everything. The rejected transactions, the receipts printing Nolan's name, the card in my wallet that was not mine. The representative put me on hold 3 times. When she came back, she confirmed it all. 5 withdrawals from my account over the past 2 weeks, each one $200, all made with my actual card at the ATM outside the post office. Every single one authenticated with my PIN. I changed the PIN over the phone and ordered a replacement card. It would take 7 to 10 business days because the nearest branch is 40 minutes out and they had to mail it. That night I told Laura everything. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table and I laid it out. The receipts, the withdrawals, the swapped card. She went quiet for a long time. Then she said maybe Nolan left a card behind when he moved and somehow it got mixed into my things. I told her I had never met Nolan. I had never touched anything of his. The card was placed inside my wallet, in the same slot where mine had been. Someone did that deliberately. Someone who also knew my 4-digit PIN. Then came the smaller things. Once we started talking, it all came loose. Laura said she had noticed the kitchen chair nearest the window pulled slightly away from the table on at least 3 occasions when we had both been at work all day. She assumed I had been sitting there before I left. I had not. I told her about the shower mat, damp on a Tuesday when neither of us had showered at home that morning. She told me about the paper towels. A half-used roll she had left on the counter had been replaced with a brand new one neither of us bought. The thermostat had been nudged up by a degree twice last week. She thought it was me. I thought it was her. We walked through every room together that night, checked the windows, the back door, the front lock. Everything was secured. In the hallway, there is a hatch in the floor that leads down to an old root cellar. A heavy braided rug sits over it, and neither of us has ever pulled it back. We decided to get the locks changed first thing in the morning. I sent an email to Nolan asking if anyone else had keys to the property. No response. I texted our neighbor Ethan and asked if he had noticed anyone around the cottage lately. He wrote back almost immediately, said he wanted to come talk to us in person. The neighbor had been paying attention. Ethan came over the next evening. He has lived on this road for 20 years and knows the cottage well. He told us Nolan was always odd. Polite but solitary. No visitors, no friends anyone could name. Supposedly took early retirement, packed up one weekend, and vanished. Left the property to a management company. Ethan never actually saw him leave. One week the lights in the cottage were on, the next they were dark, and then Laura and I moved in. Then he mentioned something that made us both go quiet. He had seen a car parked near the tree line down the road 3 or 4 times over the past few weeks, always at odd hours, late night, early morning. He assumed it belonged to someone from the next property over. We got the locks changed the following day. A local handyman swapped the deadbolts on the front and back doors and gave us new keys. For 3 days after that, nothing happened. No shifted chairs, no damp shower mats, no replaced paper towels. I let myself think it was done. 3 quiet days. Then they ended. I came home Thursday to a wet glass in the kitchen sink. It had not been there when I left. Laura was still at work and confirmed by text she had not come home during the day. I checked every room, closets, behind doors, shower curtain pulled back. Nothing out of place, nothing missing. But when I stood in the hallway over the rug covering the cellar hatch, I felt cold air pushing up through the edges, faint and steady, like something below was breathing. I told myself the cottage was old and drafts were normal. That night I lay in bed and could not settle. Around 2 in the morning, I heard a low electronic hum from somewhere beneath the floorboards. Quiet enough to doubt, steady enough that once I noticed it, I could not stop listening. I told myself it was the water heater. I stayed in bed. I did not move until morning. Real estate trauma. The card swap is what got me. That is not a desperate break-in. That is someone who knows your routine down to the minute and is comfortable enough to open your wallet in your own kitchen. Quiet corner gal. I physically recoiled at the part where you realized the card in your wallet was not yours. That means he stood in your home, handled your belongings, and you had no idea for weeks. Please be safe. Deputy Dan. Former rural deputy here. Squatter and structure cases are more common than people think in cottages with old root cellars or storm shelters. Call your sheriff. Do not confront. I want to call, but the county sheriff's office is 40 minutes away, and the nearest patrol is probably further. I am sitting in my car at the fuel stop on Route 9 right now. I called the non-emergency line, and they told me to stay put and someone would come out, but that was over an hour ago. Laura is not picking up her phone. I have the cellar photos and the receipts in my bag. I am not going back in there alone. 2 days later, Amber posted an update. The cellar hatch was open, and there was light coming from below. 2 more days of things that should not have been there. A phone charger I do not own plugged into the bathroom outlet. A faint smell of deodorant that is not mine and not Laura's, hanging in the hallway near the cellar hatch. I waited until Saturday when Laura was home. We stood in the hallway together, pulled back the braided rug, and found the hatch unlocked. Neither of us had ever touched it. We lifted it open. Stone steps led down into the dark. Laura held her phone flashlight over my shoulder while I went first. The root cellar looked empty at first. Bare stone walls, dirt floor, a few old wooden shelves with nothing on them. But at the back wall there was a wooden panel that looked like part of the structure. I pushed on it, and it swung inward. Behind it was a space about the size of a walk-in closet. There was a sleeping bag laid out flat on a foam pad. Bottles of water lined up against the wall. 2 phone chargers plugged into a power strip that ran up through a gap in the floorboards above. A battery-powered lantern. And grocery bags. 5 or 6 of them, some with food still inside. The receipts in the bags were dated within the past 10 days. Someone had not just been coming into our cottage, someone had been living beneath it, sleeping on the other side of my bedroom floor, eating down there in the dark, coming up through the hatch during the day to shower, to adjust the thermostat, to sit in our kitchen and drink from our glasses, and then wash them and put them back. The realization did not hit all at once. It built in layers. First the sleeping bag. Someone sleeps here. Then the food. Someone eats here. Then the chargers wired into our own electrical. Someone has been here long enough to set up. Laura grabbed my arm and we backed out. We did not speak until we were outside. We took our wallets and our phones and drove straight to Ethan's house. I called the county sheriff from his kitchen. The dispatcher said they would send a deputy, but it could be a few hours. They only had 2 on patrol covering the whole county that night. Ethan told us to stay as long as we needed. I sat on his couch and kept looking at the door. Nope. 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 You need to leave. Tonight. Do not go back for clothes. Do not go back for your laptop. A person living in your cellar has had months to learn your schedule, and they will know when it changes. Laura needs know. Has Laura noticed anything at all, or is she completely oblivious? because either she is not paying attention or she knows more than she is telling you. Creeped in Ohio. This is exactly what I was thinking. If two people live in the cottage and only one of them noticed the damp towels and the food going down faster, either Laura is genuinely never home or something else is going on. I do not want to jump to conclusions, but Amber needs to ask Laura some direct questions. He was gone. But not far. The deputy arrived late that night. He searched the cellar and confirmed everything. The sleeping bag, the food, the chargers. But whoever had been down there was gone. The sleeping bag was still warm. Fresh food wrappers sat in one of the grocery bags. He found something else, too. A narrow exterior hatch behind the cottage, hidden under ivy and dead brush, opening directly into the cellar from outside. That is how they got in. Not through our front door, not through the back. The locks we changed meant nothing. They never needed them. Inside the sleeping bag, the deputy found my original debit card and a prepaid phone with no contacts saved. Laura and I checked into a motel in the next town over that same night. I have sent Nolan 4 emails and called him twice. His phone goes straight to voicemail now. Ethan told the deputy that the forwarding address Nolan gave when he supposedly moved 2 states away does not match any real residence. The property management company listed on our lease has a disconnected phone number. I am writing this from the parking lot of the gas station on Route 9, about 2 miles from the cottage. Laura went to her parents' place for the night, and I drove back alone to grab more clothes. I know. I told myself I would be in and out in 5 minutes. I unlocked the front door and stepped into the hallway, and the cellar hatch was open. The rug was folded neatly to one side. Light was coming up from below, that same battery-powered lantern glow. Then I heard a phone alarm chime from underneath the floor. A single tone, like a morning alarm going off at the wrong hour. I did not go further. I grabbed my keys off the hook by the door and ran to my car. I am sitting here now with the engine running and the doors locked. I do not know if I should call the county sheriff again or just drive. Laura is not answering. Ethan is not answering. The parking lot is empty and the road is dark in both directions. Someone is in that cellar right now. They heard me come in, they heard me leave, and they stayed. Creeped in Ohio. The grocery receipts being dated within 10 days means this person leaves the house, shops at a store presumably in your town, and comes back. Someone in town has seen them. Ask around. On to the next one. I, 26 female, just found out why an extra place has been set at our Thanksgiving table every year since my grandma died. This was posted to r/nosleep by Nurse on Second Shift about 6 months ago. I work night shifts at the county hospital in a town small enough that most of the nurses went to high school together. I am 26, I live with my family, my younger sister Hannah, and our Aunt Brooke has been in and out of the house since Grandma passed 4 years ago. That is the relevant context. The rest of this is about the plate. Every single Thanksgiving since Grandma died, there has been an extra place setting at the dinner table. Full setup: plate, glass, silverware, napkin folded the way Grandma used to fold them. Nobody in my family admits to putting it there. I have asked. Not confrontationally, just casual, like, hey, who set the extra spot? Hannah shrugs. Brooke changes the subject. My mom, before she moved, would just say it was nice to keep the tradition. But here is the thing that nobody in my family seems to want to talk about. By the end of every Thanksgiving meal, the plate is scraped clean. The glass is empty. Every year. I chalked it up to grief for a long time. I figured Brooke was honoring Grandma somehow, maybe eating from the plate herself when nobody was looking. It felt sacred in a way I did not want to disturb. The plate was not the problem. 2 weeks ago, I was between shifts, 3 in the morning, too wired to sleep, so I was going through Aunt Brooke's laptop looking for her old Thanksgiving photo folders because Hannah wanted some for a collage. I found them organized by year. I clicked through the first album, 4 years ago, the Thanksgiving right after Grandma passed. Normal family shots. Then I saw the extra chair. Grandma's old chair at the end of the table. Someone was sitting in it. A man I have never seen before. He was turned slightly away from the camera, like he had moved right as the shutter clicked. I almost scrolled past it, but something made me go to the next year's folder. Same chair, same man. Same posture, same slight turn away from the lens. 3rd year. There he was again. I pulled all 3 photos up side by side and zoomed in as far as the resolution allowed. Same build, same angle. His face was never fully visible in a single frame. I sat at that table every one of those years. I looked at the chair across from me and I ate my meal, and I never once saw a man sitting there. But the camera did. Brooke knew something. I showed Hannah the photos the next morning. She squinted at the screen, tilted her head, and said she did not remember anyone else at the table. Not any of those years. I asked if maybe a neighbor had stopped by, and she just looked at me like I was reaching, which I was. Then I brought it up to Brooke that evening. Kept it light. Hey, I was going through your Thanksgiving photos, and there is a guy sitting in Grandma's chair. Do you know who that is? Brooke barely glanced at the screen. Probably one of the Hendersons from down the road, she said. They used to pop in. She turned back to the dishes and started talking about something else entirely. Too fast. I know what deflection looks like. I work 12-hour night shifts reading people who cannot always tell me what is wrong. I watch for the micro-expressions, the too quick answers, the way someone shifts their weight when they are hiding pain. Brooke had every single tell. I let it go in the moment, but I started paying attention to everything I could remember about past Thanksgivings. The extra plate was always set before any of us sat down, always at the same spot. Grandma's chair, end of the table, closest to the kitchen. Brooke always insisted on the seating arrangement. Brooke was always the last one out of the kitchen before we ate. She started looking for answers in the only place left, and the back door. I kept coming back to the back door. Every Thanksgiving I can remember, it was unlocked. Our house is old, small town old, the kind where people used to leave doors open and nobody thought twice. But Brooke locks everything else. She is meticulous about it. Every window, the front deadbolt, the side gate latch. Except on Thanksgiving, the back door stays unlocked. Once I saw that pattern, I could not unsee it. It was like catching an irregular heartbeat on a monitor, subtle until you know what you are looking at, and then it is the only thing you can see. Grandma's belongings are still boxed up in the attic. 4 years of dust on cardboard that nobody wanted to sort through, because sorting through it meant she was really gone. I decided that was where I needed to look. I got home from my shift around 2 in the morning last Tuesday. Hannah was asleep. Brooke was at her own place for the night. The house was quiet the way only old houses in small towns get quiet. Settling sounds, the furnace clicking on, nothing else. I grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer and pulled down the attic stairs. They groaned loud enough to make me flinch. I went up alone. The attic had been waiting for 4 years. Most of it was what you would expect. Recipe cards in Grandma's handwriting, the turkey brine she swore by, Christmas ornaments wrapped in newspaper from years I barely remember, photo albums I had already seen. I moved through box after box with the flashlight balanced on a rafter, my hands dusty, my eyes burning from being awake for over 20 hours straight after my shift. I almost stopped. Then I noticed a shoebox pushed behind the insulation in the far corner, wrapped in one of Grandma's old scarves, the blue one she wore to church. That was deliberate. You do not wrap something in your favorite scarf and hide it behind insulation unless you want it kept, but not found easily. Inside were letters. The older ones were handwritten on lined paper. Some of them yellowed, the ink faded. The newer ones were typed and printed, crisp white paper folded neatly into thirds. I started reading, and within the first 3 letters, the ground shifted under everything I thought I knew about my family. My grandmother had a son before she married my grandfather. The family was told the baby died at birth, but there was no death certificate in the box, no hospital paperwork confirming it, just a birth record from a county I had never heard of, and then silence for decades. The dead baby had a name. His name was Logan. He had found her. About 2 years before Grandma died, he wrote to her for the first time. A careful, almost apologetic letter explaining who he was and how he had tracked her down. Her reply was 3 pages long, and I could see where her handwriting shook. The letters went back and forth for what looked like the rest of her life. They were gentle, cautious, full of lost time neither of them could recover. She never told any of us, not a word. I sat on the attic floor with the dust and the cold, and I read every single one. I was not scared anymore. I was gutted. This was not a ghost eating off the plate at Thanksgiving. This was a man my grandmother had grieved for her entire life. a son she thought she had lost, sitting in her chair and eating at her table after she was gone. Then I reached the last few letters and I saw my aunt's name, Brooke. Grandma had written to Logan about her specifically. She asked Brooke to promise her something. The letter did not say what, but I knew. I already knew. Absolute unit, Dan. The fact that your aunt has been unlocking the door for years and never told you is honestly the scariest part of this. That is not a memorial tradition. That is an invitation. Jane Doe lurking. Please tell me you changed the locks. Please tell me you are not spending another Thanksgiving in that house without knowing who this person is. Mike from the shore. Has anyone considered that Brooke might know a lot more than she is letting on? The fact that she immediately knew about the letters when you brought them up feels rehearsed. That is exactly what has been eating at me. When I brought up the letters, she did not even look surprised. She just went quiet and said, "Your grandmother made me promise." 4 years of watching me sit across from an empty chair wondering if I was losing my mind, and she never once thought I deserved to know. I am not sure I can forgive that. A few days later, she came back with an update. I found his thank you card and the doorbell footage. I confronted Brooke. I sat her down at the kitchen table with the shoebox and the letters spread out between us, and I asked her plainly, "Who is Logan, and what did Grandma make you promise?" She did not fight it. She just folded. She told me Grandma's dying wish was that the extra plate always be set at Thanksgiving, always at her chair, always with the back door left unlocked. Brooke swore she had never met Logan. She said she assumed the whole thing was symbolic, a way for Grandma to feel like her son had a seat at the table even after she was gone. A gesture, nothing more. She said she never once checked the plate after dinner. I asked her how she could possibly not notice that the food was gone every single year. She just stared at me and said she did not want to know. Then I asked the question that mattered. If you never let him in, and I never let him in, and Hannah never let him in, then who has been eating off that plate for 4 years? Brooke had no answer. She just sat there. Then Hannah, who had been listening from the hallway, walked in holding a card. A small thank you card, unsigned, no envelope. She said she found it slipped under the back door the morning after Thanksgiving last November. She kept it because she thought it was sweet. She handed it to me. It said 5 words. Thank you for the plate. Redwood, Liz. I would be going through every single Thanksgiving photo going back as far as they exist. If he shows up in the older ones too, before Grandma died, then this has been happening way longer than 4 years. Quiet comfort. The 11-minute gap on the doorbell camera is doing something to my nerves I cannot explain. That is not a glitch. Someone knew exactly where the camera was. Blanket fort. Exactly what I was thinking. 11 minutes is very specific. That is not a power flicker or a motion timeout. That is someone who scouted the camera angle and knew how to stay out of frame until they were already inside. 11 minutes disappeared. After Hannah showed me the card, I went straight for the doorbell camera footage from this past Thanksgiving. We installed it 2 years ago, nothing fancy, just a basic motion-activated feed that saves to the cloud. I pulled up Thanksgiving Day and scrubbed back to the early hours. At 4 in the morning, a man appeared on the front porch. He was holding a covered dish. He was not knocking. He was not shifting his weight or looking around or checking his phone. He was just standing there, perfectly still, facing the door like he was waiting for it to open on its own. The footage ran for almost 7 minutes of him doing absolutely nothing. Then the feed cut out. 11 minutes of dead air. No signal loss notification, no error code, just a gap. When the recording resumed, the porch was empty. He was gone. I went to the kitchen and looked at the counter where I remembered seeing a covered dish that Thanksgiving morning. I had assumed Brooke brought it. She always brings something early. But Brooke told me she did not bring anything that year. The dish was his. He was inside our house. I checked the back door. It was locked. I know it was locked because I locked it myself the night before. The first Thanksgiving I had ever done that. I checked every camera angle we had. Nothing. No other motion alerts, no shadows, no sign of entry. Just 11 minutes of nothing and a dish on the counter that should not have been there. Thanksgiving is 3 months away. I do not know what I am going to do. Part of me wants to write to the return address on Logan's letters and tell him I know who he is and ask him to come to the front door like a normal person and sit down and eat with us and tell me about the mother he found and the family he was stolen from. Part of me wants to install deadbolts on every door and board the windows and never leave that plate out again. But it does not matter what I want. Brooke will set the plate. She will fold the napkin the way Grandma folded it. She will put it at the end of the table in Grandma's chair. She made a promise to a dying woman, and she will keep it, whether I understand or not. And sometime during the meal or after we have all gone to bed, the food will be gone. The glass will be empty. And in the morning, there might be another card under the door. I keep thinking about those letters in the attic, how careful they were, how much longing was in them. He is not trying to scare us. He just wants to sit at his mother's table. But he does it in the dark, when no one is watching, and he knows where the cameras are, and he gets inside locked doors. That is the part I cannot reconcile. You do not haunt your own family's Thanksgiving if all you want is to belong. Blanket fort. Why does no one in your family think this is insane? An extra plate appears, food vanishes, and everyone just eats their pie and goes home like nothing happened. And that is the last story for today. Thanks for listening, and if you want more, you know where to find us.